Fight fam, what it do? So we have the highly anticipated matchup between Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. going down this weekend in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on the Ring 4 card. Now, this is a fight that everyone has been talking about. This is the fight that most of the people are excited for. Great stylistic matchup happening at 147 pounds. Brian Norman Jr. is the champion, and Devin Haney is trying to get that strap. This will be Devin Haney's first official fight at 147 pounds. And there are a lot of questions that people are looking to be answered, such as will Devin Haney's chin hold up? Will Brian Norman's power be too much for Devin Haney? Or will Devin Haney simply outbox Brian Norman Jr. for 12 rounds because Brian Norman Jr. won't be able to catch him? Devin Haney's too fast. A lot of unknowns in this fight, and that's what's going to make the fight extremely exciting. So I'm going to be breaking down each individual fighter. We're going to be looking at the stats, and I'm going to be letting you all know my prediction for this fight. All right, Brian Norman Jr., he is definitely a throwback fighter. He has a throwback mentality. He's looking to fight anyone, whether it be in their backyard, it does not matter. He traveled to Japan to knock out Jin Sasaki in devastating fashion. He also knocked out Giovanni Santillan in devastating fashion. So it's like with each fight, Brian Norman Jr. keeps getting better. Yes, he did get cracked against Boca Chica. That's something that a lot of people bring up. And he did have a tough fight earlier in his career, but that's part of the game. But what I see from Brian Norman Jr. is he's constantly getting better. His confidence is building, and he has something you can't teach. I like to call it that country strength. Now, with Devin Haney was a decorated amateur. He's been doing phenomenal in the pros. He had a setback against Ryan Garcia. Yes, that fight was ruled a no contest because Ryan Garcia tested positive for Ostarine. However, he came back in his fight against Jose Ramirez. Yes, he won that fight convincingly, but the performance was not good. Looked like he was scared to get hit. He was moving a lot around the ring. I'm not going to say running because he wasn't physically running, but he was not trying to engage. And it was very obvious and it was very concerning. Now, me myself, I am a Devin Haney fan. I like Brian Norman Jr. as well, but I've been a Devin Haney fan for longer. So I'm going to still be giving you all my opinion on this fight without being biased because I've been a fan of Devin Haney for a long time. So I watched a ton of film, but I also really want us to focus in on their most recent performances. And from Devin Haney's most recent performance against Jose Ramirez, it did not look good. Brian Norman Jr.'s most recent performance with Jin Sasaki, yes, he's a completely different fighter than Devin Haney. Jin Sasaki is there to get hit. He has that Japanese warrior spirit where he's going to exchange with you. I know Devin Haney is not going to fight like that, but Brian Norman Jr. knocked him out. But it wasn't the knockout that impressed me. It was how patient he was with setting up the knockout and not looking to force it. Showed a sign of maturity. So Brian Norman Jr., as I mentioned earlier, he is the champ at 147 pounds. Well, one of the champs. He is 28 and 0, fighting out of Atlanta, Georgia. He is 24 years old, 5 feet 8 inches with a 72-inch reach. Devin Haney is 32 and 0, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, 27 years old. This will be his first fight at 147 pounds. He is 5 feet 9 inches with a 71-inch reach. So Devin Haney has a 1-inch height advantage. Brian Norman Jr. has a 1-inch reach advantage. So we know Devin Haney is going to look to establish that jab. He's going to look to get that jab off and set things up off of the jab. Now Brian Norman Jr., he has a great hook off of somebody's jab. When he counters somebody, he likes to throw that hook and kind of come over the top of their jab. So Devin Haney is going to have to be careful right off the back because we know the left hook is what Ryan Garcia was throwing, and that eventually started catching Devin Haney. Now, the difference here is Brian Norman Jr. does not have the speed that Ryan Garcia does. However, he has a lot more power than Ryan Garcia does, in my opinion. And yes, the Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney fight was built up from the amateurs. People were excited to see it. But Ryan Garcia is not a top guy at 140 or 147. Let's just be realistic here. Now, Devin Haney is going into the ring with a different type of beast. Brian Norman Jr., he's confident, he's getting better, and as I mentioned earlier, he has that country strength. So, yes, Devin Haney has been in the gym. His physique looks amazing. I think he's in phenomenal shape, and I think he's prepared to go all 12 rounds, but I don't know how his output is going to be. I don't know if he's going to be looking to exchange because any exchange that he gets in with Brian Norman Jr., he is risking getting knocked out because Devin Haney got up from every knockdown with Ryan Garcia. However, he's at 147 pounds now. That power is going to be different, and Brian Norman Jr. does hit harder. He's more explosive. As I said earlier, he's not as fast, but he is more explosive. Now, something also with Devin Haney, he has good lateral movement, so it's going to be important for Brian Norman Jr. to cut off the ring. That's something that Jose Ramirez did not do. Jose Ramirez just followed Devin Haney, and so he couldn't touch him the entire fight. Now, Brian Norman Sr. is saying that they're prepared for Devin Haney to hold, which I think Devin Haney is going to be smart and utilize the hold if Brian Norman Jr. backs him to the corner or anything. So it'll be interesting to see how Brian Norman Jr. responds off of that. Now, what I will say is Brian Norman Jr. is a stronger fighter than Jose Ramirez. So that could backfire on Devin Haney if Brian Norman Jr. engages in that clinch and tries to wear Devin Haney down by throwing shots in the clinch. Now, I've never seen Devin Haney have any conditioning issues, so I can't say he's going to get tired. So I see Devin Haney looking to come out to box. And, I'm going off his most recent performance. I think he's going to try to move around that ring a lot. I don't think he's going to be looking to exchange until maybe the middle rounds of the fight. Now, Brian Norman Jr., I think a lot of people are underestimating his boxing ability. He's young, he's athletic. He is not going to be moving around the ring like Jose Ramirez. Brian Norman Jr. is going to let his hands go so that way he can get to Devin Haney. Not saying right off the bat is going to be a high connect percentage, but I think Brian Norman Jr. realizes he is going to have to be active in this fight, but he's also patient. I think he's learned that with the step up in competition, and he doesn't force things. He doesn't force the knockout, but I think he is starting to, download the data, see what the tendencies of certain guys are, and then he's able to react off of that in the ring. Now, with his dad, Brian Norman Sr., he gives him great advice in a corner, which I think it helps that his dad was a professional boxer as well, because that is going to give him a leg up in the corner. And yes, I know Devin Haney has great guys in his corner as well. Now, I think both fathers did an excellent job of selling this fight. I don't think the beef between them is real, but this is going to be a competitive fight. Now, I see a lot of people saying this is a 50-50 fight. Personally, from what I've seen from both fighters recently, I will have to disagree because we're facing kind of uncharted territory when it comes to Devin Haney. This is his first fight at 147 pounds. He looked gun shy in his last fight, and then we know how the Ryan Garcia fight went. Yes, it was ruled a no contest. Ryan Garcia was on PEDs, but I just don't know how Devin Haney is going to respond to Brian Norman Jr.'s power because I don't think he can avoid that power all 12 rounds like he did with Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez is an older guy. He's been in some tough fights. Brian Norman Jr. is a young, hungry lion that's going to be coming forward, and he's going to be throwing shots. A lot of times Jose Ramirez wouldn't throw because Devin Haney wasn't right in front of him. I don't think we have to worry about that with Brian Norman Jr. Even if he's hitting Devin Haney's arms, he is going to be letting his hands go. Now, I do see Devin Haney winning rounds. I see Brian Norman Jr. winning rounds. But I think ultimately this fight is going to come down to whether or not Devin Haney can take Brian Norman's power. And I don't think over the course of 12 rounds, he is going to be able to do that. I think Brian Norman Jr.'s power is going to be too much throughout the course of a 12-round fight. And I do think he's going to drop Devin Haney. Now, I think this would be a little different than the Ryan Garcia fight, because if Devin Haney gets up and he gets hit again, I just think Brian Norman Jr.'s power is too much to have to deal with that. But it's very hard for me to say Devin Haney's going to get knocked out, because Devin Haney is tough. He's a very skilled fighter. As I said earlier in the video, I've been a huge fan of Devin Haney his entire career, but I gotta be honest, in my fight prediction video, I'm going with Brian Norman Jr. on the money line. Those odds are pretty much 50-50 right now, so I think that's a good bet. Method of victory, I don't know if I'm going to bet this yet, but I think Brian Norman Jr. by a late stoppage. I just think he's going to be able to stop Devin Haney in the later rounds of the fight, and I think he's going to shock the world. Again, yeah, Devin Haney, he's been in the gym. He looks amazing. His physique filled out even more at 147 pounds. I expect us to see the best version of Devin Haney. I just don't think he will have enough to keep Brian Norman Jr. from coming forward and keep Brian Norman Jr. from landing big shots, especially that left hook. I just don't think Devin Haney is all the way recovered from that Ryan Garcia fight based on what we saw from his last performance. Now, I could be totally wrong. Devin Haney can come out and shock a lot of people, but for me, my money is on Brian Norman Jr. on that money line, and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on the Brian Norman Jr. by knockout. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I know a lot of people will disagree with my opinion on this fight, but hey, that's why we have the channel. Like the video, subscribe, please become a member so that I can add you to the Discord where we discuss fights, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.